All right, so we're going to talk a little bit before we get into this cycle a little bit, just about the different families of vines and grapes that you would find. Well, here in North America, probably more so than Europe or other parts of the world. But we'll quickly go through this. There are different genos of vine, and David's going to talk about a little bit about these different ones. So let's start with this one.
Yeah, we'll actually kind of cruise through this a little bit so we stay on task here. But basically, these different genera of grapes, they all have strengths, weaknesses. Some are indigenous, some were brought to the United States. And they're the most common, and what we're going to do is give you a couple of grapes from each one that'll give you a sense for those of you around the country or around the world of what grapes might be signature grapes for that particular Vitis. So Vitis aestivalis, also known as the summer grape, things like Norton or Lenoir, the black Spanish grape. Norton, also known as Cynthiana, would be a good example. In the next category, Labrusca, also known as the fox grape. Really, we're talking about eastern U.S. and Canada, a little bit in South America. Those of you who are familiar with grapes like Concord or Catawba or Delaware or Niagara, known for having this kind of what's called a foxy, musky odor to it, but really can make wine, but oftentimes used more for jellies and for other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of my fondest childhood memories is getting into some Concord grapes, growing wild.
Vitis riparia, also known as a riverbank grape. Here we're really talking about a classic example of one that is used for rootstocks. It's prized for its ability to handle really cold temperatures, very hardy, everywhere from Canada all the way into Montana and Texas. Grapes like Baco Noir and Marshall Foch and Frontenac would be good examples of this.
Frontenac.
Frontenac. We'll always have Frontenac, Rob.
So now here's the one that we're most interested in, the Vitis vinifera.
Right.
And tell us a little bit about this, David.
Well, here we are. This is what most people think of when they think of wine grapes around the world. These are the big hitters. Over 90% of the world's wines are made from Vitis vinifera grapes. And here we're talking about the classic grapes that everybody knows: Chardonnay, Chenin Blanc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. Right? Those are the ones that kind of made it big early on. But if you think about what's exciting to Rob and I as educators and as wine people is things that have gained momentum and popularity outside of their own indigenous locales in the last decade or two, like Albarino or Garganega or Malbec. Malbec, for example, is hot. But a few years ago, nobody would have ever
known about them.
Sure.
Right. Petit Syrah is coming up now also.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that would be a good example of some of the grapes to think of when you think of Vitis vinifera, and most of the wines made around the world are made from those grapes. So
just to clarify, the Vitis vinifera were grapes that were growing kind of indigenously in Europe and parts of down the middle. I'm sorry.
Central America?
Yes, not Central America. No. Southern Europe, Northern Asia, like Persia and stuff like that. Okay. Some of these vines that were growing indigenously there.
The key point to maybe go on this is that grapes, most Americans, when they think of a Merlot or a Cabernet or a Chardonnay, those grapes never existed in the United States. They were all transplanted here, and yet those are the ones that they know the most.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about hybrids and clones real quick.
Sure. Real quick, hybrids really is a combination of a cross between two or more genus species. So you're basically trying to get, by hybridizing, you're trying to get the best qualities from each component to create a better grape. Clones, on the other hand, clones are grapes that develop over time. They either mutate spontaneously or they're done by cutting and grafting.
Right.
And creating, for example, there are over 1,000 Pinot Noir clones, right? So a vintner, a winemaker, has plenty of clones to choose from to create the kind of Pinot Noir that he wants.